Welcome into another edition of TPI Talk. Thanks for joining us. My name is Scott Hardy, and today we are joined by a very important person based off of the publication that we're doing a supplement for here, which is Dable Magazine, and so we're looking forward to the community to see that. But we thought it'd be pretty cool to catch up with some people within the Dable community who have been very integral in the success and building the brand of Dable, and we couldn't start with a better person than Miss Faye Edmondson. So Miss Faye, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right. So before we get started, I'm sure you'd have to be living under a rock in this area to not know who you are, but could you give a little background about yourself and how you started practicing in Dable?
Oh, I would be delighted. I am Faye Edmondson. I'm an attorney and I practice law in the state of Alabama. Before that, I grew up in Hackneyville. I always lived around Alexander City, and I now live in Jackson's Gap. I've worked in Dable since 1977 at various jobs, first with judges, later in the circuit clerk's office, and I've been an attorney practicing now for many years. I just love Dable. I wouldn't want to practice anyplace else. And I tried to buy a house in Dable a few years ago, one of the old antebellum homes, and it fell through. And I thought that night I went home with sniffing back tears. I was so sad I didn't get that house. So I may get to live in Dable before it's all said and done.
Well, we hope that works out for you. What triggered you to pursue a career in law?
Well, I love the law, and I have great respect for the law. And I've always been just intrigued with books I've read as a child, and also some TV shows that I saw, and everybody knows Perry Mason and To Kill a Mockingbird. And I think both of those in my life in the rural area, those have been instrumental in me to get me interested in the law and in going into the field, Scott. What I think, though, it was a magical thing. I was in school at CACC. Back then it was called Elliott City Junior College. And I got my 2-year degree there. I was in the business school. And one day my teacher came to me and said that someone had contacted her wanting to know if she could recommend a student for a particular job. And she recommended me, and I was hired. Now that was as a secretary to Judge Byrd. William I. Byrd, he's since passed, but I worked for Judge Byrd for a number of years, and at that point I was truly hooked because I'd seen the law in practice from a different area than I'd ever thought about it, and it just set me on fire, if you will, to be a part of it, because I knew that I would be able to help people if I could obtain that goal. And so that just got me going in the direction.
Okay, and so obviously we're talking about your practice in Dable, and so what's it like to practice in a small town? Because I'm sure there's has to be a little difference there compared to somewhere like a Montgomery or Birmingham.
It is. In Dable, the people know you and you know the people. I love the rural areas, and that's to be said for the Camp Hill area, Reeltown, Hackneyville, Daviston, Newside, and Alexander City. I know the people and the people know me. And when I go to the grocery store, I'm going to be approached, or I'm going to approach somebody who's a current client or someone I represent now, or a family member of that person. And I love that. I love staying in touch with people whose lives I have been instrumental in, hopefully advancing and making them a little bit better for the individuals.
Yeah, and for people who may not necessarily know the specific area in which you practice, could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, I have focused the practice in the area of Social Security, and I do that, I guess 75% of my practice at least is Social Security. The other area that I practice at that I love and I enjoy is I've been an attorney approved by the DHR, state level for Tallapoosa County, their attorney, and I've done that probably 25 years, something like that. I work with children who need help, Child Protective Services, and I work with Adult Protective Services for Tallapoosa County DHR. And like I said, I do that. I work on those cases every single day. My practice has always been focused toward helping people that need my help. And that's what I need to do. That's where I have been led to go in this practice.
Okay. Again, we're here with Faye Edmondson. Miss Faye, as she's so passionately known within the Dadeville area, with another edition of TPI Talk. And this is a special edition as we are again doing some supplemental videos to kind of correlate with what's happening with our Dadeville magazine publication. And I'm really excited for you guys to see that as well. But Miss Faye, as you said, you've been practicing in Dadeville since 1977?
1977.
So what?
Well, I've been working in Dadeville since 77.
Okay, got you. So what would you say has been some of the things that have changed since that point to now in the Dadeville area?
Well, all the elected officials. We have almost all now. Judge Ray Martin, he's still around. Judge Kim Taylor's around, is still as an attorney for district court here. We do have other judges that have, retired or are going on to other fields, but our circuit clerk. Now our sheriff changed, but Mr. Jimmy Abbott's been our sheriff now for a long time. But I've been working in Dadeville when we've had other individuals as sheriff too. Joe Smith was a sheriff here for many years. And then we've got more churches, we've got more people that are active, more children in school in Dadeville now than we have ever had. I love the programs at the Dadeville School and all of our schools, and I like to support the children that if they're at Horseshoe Bend, Dadeville, Reeltown, or Alexander City, or any of the local schools, they come by this office. They don't leave here empty-handed. If I'm here, I'm gonna make a donation or buy the candy or the donuts or whatever those children need to sell. And I especially took an interest in the Dadeville band a few years ago when one of my grandsons played with the Dadeville band, David Cantrell. So I like to feel like I'm a good supporter of the band at Dadeville for that reason. And I'm sorry I narrowed it down to one grandchild.
Oh, no matter.
I have 7. So.
Are you going to be in trouble there?
I might be in trouble.
Well, what would you say? You mentioned some of the places within Tallapoosa County, but for Dadeville specifically, what do you think makes Dadeville unique?
Well, it sounds like a cliche, but it's true here. People are friendly. People are nice, and they're very helpful to their fellow man. I think that makes Dadeville as special as it can be. God has smiled on Dadeville. I love that we still have the courthouse, and when anybody's giving directions around Dadeville, it's on one side of the courthouse or the other. If you can find the courthouse, you can find anything here.
Yes, ma'am. Well, and so that's something too that we've noticed with this publication is that I like that we do something specifically for Dadeville, and so we do some supplemental publications throughout the year, but special editions of things. But I've noticed since my interaction with Dadeville growing up was more sports related, so it wasn't always the best relationship there. But since I've grown up and really started to establish some relationships with people that are my age and some older that are within the community, when you talk to people from Dadeville, they always talk about what you just said about the friendliness of the people, and it's a family-oriented feel. So you always have some people, business-related or individuals, that step up and say, hey, if you need this, we'll get it taken care of. And so I think that's something to be admired for the area.
And I agree 100%.
Yes, ma'am. And so we're going to take a break here a little shortly. We're going to bring on another attorney within the office, Pat Mims. But for someone who is interested in a career in law, what type of advice would you be able to give them?
Well, do it. Go for it. But pray about it and let the Lord lead you to the career that you really need, where you can serve the people the best. But if it's the law for you, pick out a good law school. Do what it takes to go through law school. Sit for the bar, pass that bar. Just pick an area of the law. The law is so vast now. It's almost unheard of that an attorney in a rural area would really focus in one area or two. But I found for me, it allows me to know the law that I need much better. It allows me to have a better relationship with the judges that I go in front of every week. And therefore, I feel as if I'm doing a better job for my client, each individual client, because the outcome for that client is just so important.
Yes, ma'am. Well, that's great to hear. So what we'll do right now is take a break, and when we return, we'll bring on Pat Mims, another representative of Faye Edmondson, attorney at law. More TPI talk right after this.
Has your Social Security been denied and you need to let the offices of Faye Edmondson help you receive your benefit? Call 825-9559.
When I put in for my disability, they turned me down. And I went to see Miss Faye in Daveville, Alabama, and she got me approved.
After 30 years of teaching, I was injured and could no longer work. And Faye Edmondson helped me get my disability.
Faye Edmondson got me my chance.
Welcome back in, and thanks for joining us here with this special edition of TPI Talk, the Dable Magazine episode. And again, we want to thank Ms. Faye Edmondson for sitting down with us during that first segment. We had the opportunity to discuss a lot of things that I was unfamiliar with, and I hate to say this, but prior to today, I had never met Ms. Faye, but it's definitely been a pleasure to do so. But as we mentioned during the first segment, we'll transition over to another representative here for Faye Edmondson, attorney at law, and that's Mr. Pat Mims, a Dable native as well. So, Pat, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
And so I'll ask you kind of the same storyline that we had with Ms. Faye. Just can you talk a little bit about your background and how you started a career in law, specifically in Dable?
All right. My family and I moved here to Dable when I was 12 years old. We owned a produce stand, as well as we did landscaping and pine straw produce plants, just about anything that you could think of. We had a restaurant, and I've done that since I was little. After my family moved back to Clanton, where we are originally from, my wife and I, she and I opened up another market that did the same thing. That's called Pug's Place. So a lot of people may know me as Pug. So I did that for years, and then I went to law school because my wife has been a paralegal for 15, 20 years, I guess, and she wanted to become an attorney. So I told her that if she wanted to become an attorney, that I would go to law school with her and help her to attain her dream. So she and I did. We went to Faulkner University, and we got our degrees in criminal justice. And then 3 days after we finished at Faulkner, we went to Birmingham School of Law, and we went to school for about 5.5 straight years, with no breaks.
That sounds like a challenge there. And I'll ask you this too, the same way with your background in Dable. What would you say some things that have changed in the area since you were here as a 12-year-old to now? Well,
Dable, there's one thing that hasn't changed about Dable, is it is a hometown. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody helps everybody. I guess the things that may have changed the most since I've been here was the rerouting of 280. And what's happening on 280 there. There's a new DHR building that's coming up, so there's a new thing that's coming. So there have been a lot of positive changes for Dable, but there's also been a lot of positive things that haven't changed.
Yes, sir. And so again, the specialization within the practice is Social Security disability. Can you just talk a little bit about that and what your role is here at the firm?
Well, my role here at the firm is to prepare myself to represent my client 110%. It is also my responsibility to prepare a client for a hearing. There's certain things that have to be done, and clients need to be prepared to do that. So we have what's called a pre-hearing meeting, where we get the whole group for that month in, inside this room, and we give them tips and instructions on how to prepare yourself for that hearing, just in general. And then we try to get you back into the office for a one-on-one consultation, so that we can take your specific case and take your specific issues and argue what your severe impairments are to a specific judge.
I got you. And so if you've watched TV at any point over the last 10 years or so, you've probably seen the Miss Faye Got Me My Disability commercial. I think that's a very good PR for you guys. And so, but for someone who may not know that they have a case or something along those lines, what would they need to do to enlist you guys for your services?
Well, they'll call us, they'll talk to us, or they'll drop in to see us. And it doesn't require an appointment to come in. Either Pat or I are typically here at any point of any day. So we're going to meet with them when they come in. We'll do the intake. We'll get Social Security on the phone. If there are issues that the client and I or we need to understand, like which program to go under. Often a client doesn't have a clue whether it's going to be a Title II, Title 16, or one of the others. And under Title 16, there's several different versions there for disabled children and such. So it's all about kind of figure out what program to seek the disability through, what's more beneficial to the client in the beginning. And then it's to determine from the client who the providers are, who the client has seen and what troubles they're having, whether it's a mental health issue, physical problems, surgery, have they recently been to the hospital. Then our job is to obtain every piece of evidence that would tend to prove the condition that they have, whether it's with their lungs, their heart, problems with joints like knees, elbows, spine issues. And then we look and we consolidate, but we never leave out a single thing. We like to look at it like when a client's prepared for the hearing, that client can testify about any problem that he or she has. And it won't be the first time they've discussed the issue in the courtroom. We always meet with the clients prior to the hearing to make certain that they understand the judge is going to ask certain questions to qualify you. Typically, with most judges, then, it's up to the attorney to meet the burden of proof, whether or not we can get the evidence in, whether or not the client is comfortable testifying. Those are very, very important issues.
Yes, ma'am. Again, we're here with Ms. Faye Edmondson and Pat Mims here at a special edition of TPI Talk, the Dable Magazine episode. And at times there can be a stigma for the pursuit of trying to get your disability, or being a person who is an attorney that is pursuing that as well. Is there a way that you can maybe try to enlighten people as to say, this isn't a bad thing, that if you're in a position that you need to receive some help, then we're able to provide that for you?
May I go first?
Sure.
All right. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Most of our clients have worked for years. I would say most of our clients are 50 years old or older. Those people have worked since they were teenagers, paying into the Social Security Fund. That's what the fund is there for. When you have an individual who has worked for 25 years, as an example, that person is not likely to stop working and get in line to try to get approved for disability if they're able to continue working. The reasons are great. The individual could earn a lot more money following the pursuit of the job or the field that they're interested in. But when you can't work, you can't work. And if you cannot work because of mental health problems or physical problems or a combination of those problems, there needs to be an area for you to go to. And the law provides you with the area of Social Security disability. It's not, no one would volunteer for that.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't represent people who are trying to take advantage of the government or their friends and neighbors. There is a stigma. There is a stigma, and there probably will always be. And that stigma will remain in place in your mind or in someone else's mind until it's you who's had the car wreck, or you who's diagnosed with cancer, or you who has a heart problem and your doctors will not allow you to get back to work, then it's no longer a stigma for you. It's a means of taking care of yourself and your family.
Yeah, and Pat, if you
Just to add to what Miss Faye said, at one time in my life, I was one of those that had that I looked at it that way. Until I started talking with Miss Faye and I started working with Miss Faye. Everybody that gets a paycheck that has worked hard all their life, they have had part of their money taken out of their hard-earned dollar and have had part of that hard-earned dollar put into a pot. When you stop and you think about it that way, that pot is the FICA tax, okay? So everybody that's worked has paid that. So when you've worked for years and you want to work, just like Miss Faye said, people that's based upon their work record, they know that Social Security disability is not a career. It is not a career choice, but it's a hard choice that they had to make. And because they paid into that FICA tax, they are truly entitled to some help.
And that's very knowledgeable for that, and I did want to make sure that was something that you guys were able to relay, because there is, if you watch the news from time to time, we're just speaking with people within the community, and they see that somebody, that again, the stigma is that they're taking advantage of a situation. But I'm glad that you guys were able to clear that up. So
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Well, guys, we truly appreciate you joining us, and we're really excited for people to see this finished product. And I'm looking forward to being able to let you see it as well, because this was, again, very informative. And again, you guys are great representatives of the Dable area, so I know that they have to be very pleased to have you as representatives for them.
It's our pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, this has been another edition of TPI Talk. My name is Scott Hardy. See you next time.